Over to you guys.
So I'm going to start with, okay, you know who I am.
Should we all curtsy?
Should we all, no. You've got a choice now, you can curtsy or bow. And I actually bowed because I thought it was very modern of them to allow me to bow. So because when I tried to curtsy, I sort of fell out of the line. Terrible balance. So obviously I'm Millie Kendall, I'm the CEO of the British Beauty Council. And the British Beauty Council, if you don't know, is an advocacy group. We're not a trade body. We consider ourselves friends of BABTAC. And we have worked very closely with BABTAC during the pandemic, really, to support your industry. You know, I think what's really happened over the past couple of years is really galvanised our industry, and we've been really able to put our industry on the map, both economically, culturally, socially, and really give ourselves a big pat on the back for the work that we do and how we support people. And you've just come from a little self-love session, have you? Yeah, I should have joined you because I could do as a bit of self-love sometimes. But you know, we really should be very proud of where we've come to over the past few years, because I think it's been quite amazing. Part of the British Beauty Council is a committee that we have called the Sustainable Beauty Coalition, and lovely Oriele is part of the Sustainable Beauty Coalition. I'll give you a little bit of background on Oriele. As one of Elemis' co-founders, Oriele Frank, it's professional marketing background and love of science, nature, different cultures, sustainability, corporate social responsibility and alternative therapies has led to the development of a brand that is always one step ahead of the industry. Okay, hands up who knows Elemis. We all do, right? Just checking. Oriele's pure determination and commitment to push the boundaries of the Elemis brand to be totally unique and innovative has been a driving force for the success of Elemis. Today, Oriele also sits on the steering committee of the Sustainable Beauty Coalition, which I could say it properly, and has been instrumental in the work that the British Beauty Council do in this area. So thank you for being here to talk to me today. I keep two of my favourite people today. The second, here in the middle, is my colleague Victoria Browlie, who is the Chief Policy Officer at the British Beauty Council. Victoria spent the past 15 years affecting political change from animal welfare to beauty therapy at central and local government. Former Director of Policy and Public Affairs at the National Hair and Beauty Federation, and now our Chief of Policy. Victoria's been involved in our work with the government's SME Climate Hub, COP26, and pretty much anywhere where we see environmental challenges affecting the sector that policy changes can help with. And I'm not sure it sort of feels like a natural synergy, but what we do as a country environmentally is very linked to policy and government and other stuff like that. It's also very much what you can do yourselves. Because this is, to me, this is an emergency. You know, our planet is in dire straits, and we need to really act as much as possible to affect change. And what I mean by that is, would you raise your hands if you've used 2 products today getting ready? 2 or more products. Keep your hand raised if you use 5 or more products. Keep your hands raised if you've used 10 or more products. Right, you're consuming too much. We are all using a lot of products to get ready in the morning, aren't we? Yeah, exactly. Toothpaste to deodorant. So what I wanted to do is have a really open discussion and, you know, include you guys in this conversation, because I think it's really important as human beings, as parents, as wives, lovers, children, business owners, that we really own up to what we're doing and really look at what we can do to affect change personally and within our businesses. How many of you are sole traders and how many of you have salons? That would be really interesting. So if you're a sole trader and you operate, you're self-employed and you operate on your own, raise your hand. And then if you run a business and you have employees, can you raise your hand? Okay, that's good to know. So what we wanted to be able to do also is sort of help you walk away with some tips, small things that you can do to change. And it's not just about being environmentally conscious or doing the right thing, it's also about how to better your business, open yourselves up to new clients, save on energy, because obviously, as we know, energy is a massive crisis for us all as business owners.
I was going to add as well, just with my policy geek hat on, is that
the government has committed to this race to net zero, so whether we like it or not, the UK government is committing to being carbon neutral by 2050, and there's pressures to do that earlier than that date. I don't think we'll be successful in doing that, but that is the ultimate date, 2050. So little by little, the government are going to start to be putting pressure on businesses to be making changes, whether that's through carrot or stick, whether that's incentives or taxes. And so whether we support the initiatives or not, it's something, if you want to future-proof your businesses, that you're going to have to start really seriously considering.
I'm just trying to add up how old I'll be in 2050. Close to 80 or something. That's really quite
I'm
scary.
still wearing leather trousers.
I will still wear leather trousers. So I just want to, the first question I've got for my panellists, and this, you know, feel free to raise your hand. I really want this to be a free-flowing conversation. Where does sustainability fit into everyday lives and our businesses? So I know if I track back to where I first heard about sustainability, obviously I launched Aveda with Ali back there in the, holding the door open, many, many years ago, and obviously that was one of the first sort of, you know, Ayurvedic sustainable brands in terms of being very vocal about this movement. But the first thing I ever did was turn the cold water off when I brushed my teeth. That was an obvious thing. And then it was, you know, 2 bins in the kitchen, the compostable stuff and the recycling. I only just recently put a recycling bin in my bathroom, so now I do recycle my bathroom waste. What else do? I was just saying it took me 2 years to figure out where to put those bloody canvas bags, so I could remember to take one to the supermarket, because for all the will in the world I would get to the supermarket and I'd go, oh crap, I forgot that bag again. And so there are so many things, little things that we've done. You know, I try to buy organic food whenever possible, but you know, I'm still very conscious that, you know, organic bananas like twice the price of regular bananas, and what's the difference, and how does that affect what I'm putting in my body as well as my bank balance? And so there's so many little things that we've done, you know, so I think we've all, have you guys all made changes? I mean, I think we all have personally.
Should you even be buying bananas because of the shipping and everything? Should we just buy local?
Well, that's a whole other thing in our industry. There's the whole sort of the debate about whether we should be bringing things in from China and whether that is increasing carbon footprint. Or you were talking earlier about, but explain the carbon neutral packaging.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in ingredients from all over the world, bringing in packaging from all over the world, and these are the debates that we're having. You know, what we're actually looking at what we can bring to manufacture more in Europe. But even then, you've got the price increase and everything's sort of double the price in Europe. So then you're kind of like offsetting that. But yeah, it is so complex. And I think for us today is how can we simplify it for you guys and bring it back to some manageable changes that you guys can make personally, but also within your business. I mean, me personally, I was probably 18 months ago, my sort of world of sustainability was really all the charity work of Elemis. I'd always been doing that. But very, very grateful to being acquired actually by the Lottstown Group, and they were like, right, we want a board member, which I put my hand up straight away, to champion change at Elemis. And I was like, whoa, what, you know, and I was like, I'll do it. And, you know, spent the next 18 months, had to get myself educated, had to go to college, went to Cambridge University and studied sustainability, because I didn't know. I was saying to Millie, I'd never heard of an SDG. I was like, what's that? You know, SDG is the Sustainability Development Goals that were set in the Paris Agreement in 2015. There are 17 of them. And that's the first thing. Someone said, I think it was Tracy Woodward, said, go online and read about SDGs.
Sounds like a disease.
I
I only found out about them 6 months ago as well. But don't you feel like sometimes it's about, like, it's like you put your hand up before you even knew what you were getting into? I think sometimes it is about that, having that courage to sort of do something before you quite know what it is.
And it's been, I'm constantly educating. You know, I went onto there and got quite overwhelmed, to be honest, probably similar to you guys. Where do I start? There's 17 goals. But actually, what I love about the whole world of sustainability is it's so collaborative. Everyone, it's not, you go to a competitor and say, what are you doing? And everyone will collaborate because we all know we've got to do this together. You know, and nobody's doing anything badly, we've all got to do it better. You know, so I think that's for me. You know, someone said, don't try to do all 17 goals. Actually, the advice I got was, ask your employees which ones resonate with them. Because I was going to choose which ones, I immediately knew which ones. And they were like, no, you ask the employees. So we did a survey, they had to all go do their homework, and they came out with 6 of the development goals, you know, that we would champion as a brand. And now that's what we live and eat and breathe by. Sorry, there's someone over there.
Yeah, one of our, sorry, my name's Rebecca, nice to meet everyone. One of our issues as being a brand is we try and cut back on excessive packaging. One of the hardest things we find is that a lot of our customers are so used to having this really excessive, beautiful packaging by the bigger brands that it almost kind of devalues ours, you know. So what would you guys recommend? Because obviously coming from Elemis, you guys have some wonderful packaging.
Yeah.
We're very much kind of eco-friendly, you know, we try and do minimal packaging. But it's tough because we also understand the customer wants the experience.
I think we'll see change there. I do too. I really do. I'm frustrated because I can't get a recyclable airless pump in the industry. So I'm pushing the packaging companies to say, what are you going to do? And I can't have air, I can't put this in a jar because it can't have contact with air, otherwise it won't remain as good as quality. But they are being pushed, and we will see change.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like everyone wants the customer
I
experience.
think in a lot of ways we've set some really bad examples as an industry.
Yeah.
So, for example, we went to Glasgow. William McDonald, who wrote Cradle to Cradle, a fantastic book, he spoke and he said, and I'm sort of paraphrasing, that if you look at like a beer bottle, a Heineken bottle, a green glass bottle, in Germany all beers had the same bottle, they just had different labels on it. In milk bottles, they were all the same, there weren't different sizes, different shapes. What we've done is we've sort of oversold the consumer on the packaging. The fact is that 9 times out of 10, if you're having a really great beauty treatment, you're lying on a bed with your eyes closed, you don't even see what the packaging is. As a consumer, it's not really that relevant. It's the product that's inside it. And I think it's sort of that, we've put the cart before the horse a little bit in our industry, where actually it's a horse that's doing all the hard work.
I would say that there has been some changes in. So I think when we all started on the sustainability journey, it was sort of naturally accepted that you might not necessarily be able to have something that's pretty or as jazzy, but you're doing something that's ethically good.
Yeah.
Whereas I think now more money is being driven into things like packaging, for example. People are coming to realise that you don't necessarily have to compromise on that anymore. It's just about more people realising that there's a gap in the market there to make something that's still sexy and beautiful, but it's also made of mycelium, like mushroom fungus, or it's actually made of a completely 100% recyclable and recycled plastic.
There's going to have to be a pinch point, and the thing is that what we're trying to do is what we need to do is educate and fund the next packaging design.
Well, £30 billion.
Genius, you know.
£30 billion has just been put in from the government to try and just help packaging companies that come to them come up with this new innovation around packaging. So they're looking at ways. They're looking at problems that exist and then trying to find solutions to them. They're just doing it in a...
The challenges for the beauty industry, though, is because we're sort of slightly wedged between food and fashion. We're consumable, but we've got the sort of fashion side where it has to be appealing to people. And so we've got that. It's quite a challenging environment or industry, isn't it?
How do you stand out? I mean, it's a huge industry, isn't it? I mean, we at COP, it was quite interesting because we launched this pilot scheme where we would... And I'm still determined to make it happen. We'll see if we can. There's lots of logistics. It's hard work trying to do anything different. But we had one bottle that many companies could use. And it would be professionally clean, and then I would use it for Elemis, and then someone Unilever would use it for their product. And then, so the same bottle could be used, they said, up to 400 times. It would be like a steel bottle. And that is like, that's the nirvana, that we do the milkman model. You know, and
I see you driving around in your little Elemis.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, that was like the funniest thing to do, was to jump on the back of the milk truck.
That's amazing.
But we know from like the Gen Z audience, and they are our future consumers, right? That I think it was our Courage to Change report that we did as the very first piece of work that created the Sustainable Beauty Coalition. 90% of those people are expecting the brands that they use to be doing things to drive forward better environmental aims, better sustainability. So they have that level of expectation from us. So we miss.
Do you think about that generation though in developing product?
Yeah.
Because presumably, I've got a 15-year-old daughter and she's already had a few facials, but she. Great cost, but that's a consumer. That's the next customer, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And are they going to demand greater transparency of your sustainable
they're
credentials?
asking questions. I think for us it's about being really transparent and saying, look, we know we're not perfect. We've 30 years of really not being that conscious environmentally, and it's now about showing the way, really. And it's like, it might be like the Christmas collection. We were like, we've always done plastic platforms because that you can put the product in them all and it gets protected and then it gets shipped all over the world. And kind of like, actually no, we don't need them anymore. So get rid of them. So everyone's like, oh gosh, that's not. But and it's not easy because if you put paper, it rips and the bottles get broken, and so everything we're challenging. But I do think that there's an expectation now that every brand is going to have to. I'm working on elevating our presence online, because if you're online at Elemis, then we can't really tell all the things we're doing. So actually communicating every single step that we're doing. We found out, I didn't know that in our wipes, in our dynamic recessing pads, there was an element of plastic in the wipes. We got rid of that. But I haven't communicated that to anyone. But we should be saying, actually, these are all the little steps that we're doing, right down to sourcing the plants and sourcing more locally. We're working with more and more local farmers, seeing how we can develop. And I mean, it's interesting because one of your questions was about nature and science, but I actually am a firm believer of that they work together. Nature is science. And we're looking at how we can farm a seaweed, but also then grow that seaweed in a biotech environment, so we're not damaging the oceans and taking all the seaweed out. And I think there's going to be a merge of that whole biotech and being
biodesign and
environmental for the planet as well. But it's super complex, We understand that's really hard for you as individuals.
I think the thing that I've sort of learned the most is that you can't be perfect, and that when people say they are, they're genuinely probably not. You can't. Carbon neutral, unlikely. Reduce your carbon footprint cannot be zero. I mean, there are things that you just cannot achieve in everyday life. It's virtually impossible.
Ultimately, like your children and your family are going to be living in these future generations, that we have a responsibility to be trying to do something to improve things. And so it's about normalising the conversations around what businesses. I know that there's obviously a competitive element between businesses, but sharing those experiences of what is and isn't working, I'd be really interested to hear in this room if anyone's tried things that have worked or haven't worked. That would be really helpful.
Well, that's my next question is it a challenge to adapt your working environment to becoming more sustainable? Because, word on the ground is it's expensive to change your business.
Yeah, do you know what I think? What I did is, because I used to think I need to do this, and it was all too overwhelming for me. So I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? I want to do it all. I want to be really good at it and help the world. But I broke it down, I just did some little things, and it was much more manageable with my emotions and everything else, and financially, and just did the small things and not feeling that you said you can't change the world, but just doing little things that make a difference, and then more little things.
I mean, I think you've got, if you look at the business, especially if you're in the beauty industry, you've got your premises, you've got your furniture, you've got your equipment, your disposables. There's certain elements of the products that you use. There's how you interact with your clients, your marketing, retail display areas, literature, collateral, all that kind of stuff. And I think if you take an inventory of everything, you kind of you'll be able to see where you've got those sort of excess. And we were talking earlier about you can go online and Google SME Climate Hub. You can sign up, it's free, isn't it? Yeah. You can sign up for free and they will help you to reduce your contribution, basically, your sort of your impact, your negative impact on the environment. We've joined up, and you kind of set your own goals, don't you, so that you can kind of.
It's about making the commitment first of all that you want to do something that's better, then helping you with exactly how you measure what your impact is now, to then know what your goal should be. So, if you have no idea how much your impact is, then how can you know how you could lower it? And then it's looking at your practices and how you work, and then your supply chain, which is actually a massive part of it as well. And it is a fantastic resource. It's got tons and tons of stuff on there, but it sort of just breaks it down exactly like you say, without having simple things that you can do. Sometimes it does just feel overwhelming, but that's where conversation is so good. Like hearing that you could just do that with your pads and take out that plastic will help another brand that's here today think, oh well, I might actually be able to do that, rather than thinking, oh, it's just this completely unobtainable idea.
But there are people in the room might be using things that they don't know they've got microplastics in it, and actually, that's I mean, I didn't realise how many formulations had microplastics in it until last month. I had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, that's going down the sewer, down the drain, into the sewer, into our water supply, those plastics.
I mean, one of our new formulation things is to try and achieve, well, obviously the goal would be 100%, but over 95% biodegradable material on anything rinsable that goes down the drain. And I mean, again, like you, that came from Lots of Time Group saying, you know, and I was like, wow, I've never really challenged our formulations in that way. And understanding that every single thing that's going down there is going into the water system and then affecting, you know, you drink that water and, you know, animals drink that water and it can get right, it can...
Well, apparently Helena doesn't, because Helena was drinking sparkling water last night in her hotel room because she won't drink out of the tap.
So usually has.
I think what we're talking about measuring, we've never measured our carbon footprint. It was something that we just didn't do. And you know, everything is resource, people, time. It was literally just me, and I've got a little junior now. And you think Elemis is a big company, but they won't necessarily have a whole team. Lots of time have 25 people, so I'm like, great, I'm going to use you. But we measured our carbon footprint. I mean, I thought I knew my business really well. And the biggest emissions caused by our brand was all of you guys using it. And I was like, what? So they call it Scope 3, which is the in-use phase. And what I had to do is for every cleansing balm that I was selling, I had to multiply it by 3 litres of warm water that customer is going to use to remove my cleansing balm. And anyone that's getting in the shower, I had to multiply it by 35 litres of hot water in the shower. And that then generated the carbon emissions that people using our product. And then I was like, oh my God, there's me trying to grow my business. And I'm only going to grow this carbon emissions. But what it has done is we're like, okay, let's see if we can launch, and we're in the middle of doing it, a bit like turn the tap off.
Yeah.
When you're doing your cleansing balm routine, can we get people to turn the tap off in between? Can we get them to use less than 3 litres? And can we get them in maybe in the summer months to cold water cleanse? And we're actually doing some tests to see the efficacy and whether people feel that is actually better for their skin. So yeah, it's challenged us to go, oh my God, we need to get this down.
So with regards to the retail piece as a salon owner, your retailer is actually your client, you're picking up as a brand on your carbon footprint as opposed to the salon owner's carbon footprint if we're selling it out.
I have to still
She has to do both.
I have to do
Do
both.
both.
The whole supply.
No, I mean, so
Yeah.
if you're doing it as the brand from that
claim it as
product,
yours?
I wouldn't claim it as mine because you're claiming it in that
I
sense.
think you end up
Or would you do both?
yeah, if you have both, double responsibility
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double benefit.
Yeah.
Because it's your carbon footprint, it's not really sort of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is, I have no idea how to measure my carbon footprint. Absolutely no idea. Probably massively. No, but I mean, these are the things that you kind of think about, don't you? You kind of think about sort of, you know, when we went to COP, and I was like, do we fly up there? Can't fly to COP. And if we do have to fly up there, because I had to fly in one day and come back again, do I have to offset my, how do I offset something? You know, it was like those, all of a sudden, it's like every single thing you do, you start to think about what the impact is. So I personally tend to try and buy big sizes of everything. You know, there's a lot of hair in our house and, you know, a lot of shampooing going on, and what I don't want to do is have to buy small 250ml bottles that you have to dispose of all the time. Some of it post-consumer recycled materials, then I have to recycle it, the caps, the tube, everything's different, it's really complicated, different councils, different boroughs up and down the country have different recycling.
Exactly, I was just about to say that this is so challenging because we're doing all of that,
Yeah.
and then as a waxing salon we produce so much waste,
Yeah.
and every borough in council has a different rules.
Yeah.
We should do that as a clinical waste, but then next door is not doing it.
Well, we were talking about the disposables, you were saying about, is it Scrummy?
Yeah, I don't know if any of you have heard of Browlie.
Yeah.
But I was talking to the Elemis girls and they were like, they represent them. But, you know, I went back to actually our spa and was like, you know, what are we doing from a sustainable point of view? And actually, you know, even this conference has made me go, I need to do more. You know, but we've been using Scrummy for a long time. And I remember when we launched the Elemis, it was called the Elemis Day Spa, it's now a house of Elemis. And we had 11 towels on a treatment. It was all about luxury, towels on the bed, towels on top. I hate getting cold. I mean, it was towels on the head, and more towels. So actually, I do remember within a few weeks of launching, our CEO, Sean, went, we've got to reduce the towels. Not because he was thinking environmentally, the laundry bill. His thing was profit. But now we've reduced down all of that right down, and we're using these scrummy fabrics which are biodegradable, completely reducing the whole sort of laundry bills and things like that. And so what we need to do as an industry, and maybe as part of SBC and British Beauty Council, is give you more and more information about these incredible new
Because you
initiatives.
can swap, you can do is it the bamboo?
Yeah, you can use
Spatulas.
bamboo spatulas because you don't want to have plastic
Where do you get
spatulas.
bamboo spatulas from?
But then what about the wax, the waste itself, the hair, you know, the wax?
So there are quite a lot of private recycling schemes now. We know one from the hair collection, which is just completely the Green Salon Collective. I think there's a similar scheme for
There's a
beauty
beauty scheme, I can't remember.
that's similar, where you basically, they provide the bins for you in your salon. They simply just put all of your different waste in there and send them back, and then
Fair share.
Yeah. They recycle them and use them in other ways. So for the hair one in particular, with the plastics that they take from that, they then reuse those into really, really stylish hairbrushes and things like that. You can then circular economy.
I mean, we
really
have
down.
put wax in there.
I'm not sure. Not so much of the wax on that
Yeah, we did. I'm not sure I condone that. I mean, look, I think there are some things that we obviously know you can't recycle. I mean, I think that's a given, but I think if you can do as much as you can, it is about those little bits, isn't it? It's about, we've been trialling, speaking to this group of hair salon owners to start to promote using cold water at the backwash when you get your hair done, which I think is, I personally quite like it being, oh my God, I'm 55. Anything cool helps. So I don't mind it. I mean, I'm not saying it's for everyone, but that will also help to reduce their energy bill because it's not, you know, the amount of energy it takes to heat water and the cost to heat the water is quite, it's a lot of money going down that backwash. So there are those little bits and pieces that you can kind of, I will try the cold water with my cleansing bar. Because the funny thing is, when I wash my face, I do use the hottest water possible.
So it was really dry on your skin, that is so bad for your skin.
What, hot?
Really bad.
Yeah.
Whoever looks after your skin should have told you off by now.
I don't think anyone ever tells me off.
I'm telling you off.
I'm going to use cold water from now.
Lukewarm.
Do you have cold showers?
Yeah, I'm like the quickest shower. I'm like in and out of the shower really quickly. Yeah, I'm really a quick shower. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I literally make a cup of tea before I've taken the tea bag out. I'm in and out of the shower, and then I take the tea bag out. So basically, as long as it takes to brew a cup of tea, is my shower usually. There's so much information. So now you know my skin is really dry. No one's ever told me off, but Sam. So that yeah, we should. It's usually whether I'm putting it in the right bin, you know, that kind of thing. So do you think there's a massive cost to updating your work environment, or is this a myth? I mean, let's be really honest here.
Well, in my world,
Yeah, I mean, how much is it costing?
It's what I'm constantly going in front of the CFO and having to justify increased prices for sustainable things. I've managed pretty much everything on my list by saying, well, I'm taking out spatulas, I've taken out leaflets, and I've managed to persuade our manufacturers to work at cost neutral, and I'm changing my boards, and there's a lot of hard negotiation going on. The toughest one is the plastics, because plastics are just so cheap. Plastic versus glass versus aluminium. And especially now there's an aluminium shortage with the war going on. We've got sunflower, lack of sunflower going on. The price has gone up. So the costs of manufacturing, formulation, and then packaging. But you know, so what I've done is I've been sneakily launching new products in glass because it's not the large volume, but something like our marine cream, you know, is still in plastic. recycling. So we've changed the cleansing balm's gone from PETG to PET, which is recyclable here in this country. So that's just happening now, but they don't have recycling facilities around the world to do that. So we go under something called the Elemis Foundation, who I don't know if she was our Olympic sailing lady, she's amazing. But they're probably the toughest organisation to keep happy, and they want global recycling. So at the moment we can say it's recyclable in the UK, but not globally.
And do you think this is going to impact businesses? Because obviously you're having to, if brands are having to increase the prices, okay, this is impacted by the war as well.
Yeah.
But at this point you've got, you're a business owner, you've got someone, you've got 2 or 3 staff working for you, you've got your product prices are going to go up, your energy prices are going to go up. It's a real challenge. You're going to probably have to put your prices up to your clients, you have to, because no other option is there.
Yeah, we held off for 2-3 years during the pandemic because we were like, God, it's tough for everyone. But yeah, we had, unfortunately, at the moment, we just have done a price increase, but we will do everything possible to try not to do it. And I think, we've just got to be a bit more realistic that what is achievable and what's not, and try and keep moving this industry forward. I mean, but also be a bit more innovative in what we're doing, in creating. So I'm trying to create a forever jar that could be beautifully done for Elemis, that you would keep it forever, and you maybe some sort of recycling system. But even that gets complicated because then you're creating a plastic jar to put into it, and then you're selling 2 different SKUs, and then that's complicated.
It's almost like, so I use Method, I don't actually now, but I have used Method for ages.
Yeah.
I've kept the same dishwasher, washing liquid for ages, but every time I buy refills, they seem like larger and more plastic for some reason.
Yeah, I think from a British Beauty Council point of view, like having an education system in that allows sellers to understand these points, because as a brand owner, it's so important, because often it comes across that as biased, you're just saying that because it's your brand, but a lot of the points you've made there are not public knowledge, and it's really important. Like, people are like, oh, you're just saying that, because that's what you're doing. But actually having like a face like the British Beauty Council to actually list these things of how we are, or our customers, and how we can pass that through to our customers, can be more sustainable, Because
I think if you have that conversation, a really honest conversation, to say, look, there's a war going on, there's a rise in ingredients, there's we've got the companies that we use are trying to better the plastics that they're using. It will impact on what you have to pay me.
Our industry has not had, the pro industry, and I'm sure everyone will agree in this room, we have not gone in line with inflation for prices. So a lot of our customers are reluctant to put their prices up, and their prices have been the same for the last 15 years. We find that what we hear back from our customers is that they struggle to be able to do it. And I think if we had that education to be able to teach them how to explain, we've got to justify it.
Yeah, I think it's educating the consumer.
Well, it's almost like,
things you've got to pay
it's the whole point of you have to pay for those plastic bags in the supermarket.
What the heck?
I mean, nobody complained really about, they did a little bit in the beginning, but actually, you either went with the canvas bag or you paid for the damn plastic.
What the hair sector have been doing is being quite vocal about the different initiatives they're bringing in their specific salons, and then having a £1 opt-out additional cost at the end of the process when you're paying, that the clients can opt out of, that says this pound is helping us to move forward in our sustainable journey. And when you see it as a pound, and they can actually see, oh, you're using those scrubby towels, or I can see that you have done something particularly at the point, the point of your desk or something like that, it actually helps them if they can visually see it, and they want to be helping you with that.
We did tell our clients how much it was costing us to make a scrubby bed up.
Yeah.
And the pandemic helped with that, because we were using for infection control and all the rest of it, you're using
I think transparency is really key here. I think being transparent is really key, because you will have in order to expand your client base, you're going to have a younger client coming in. I think, like you said, those young people will expect you to be more environmentally conscious. I think if I saw a pound at the, we're increasingly less cash business, we're increasingly more card. I don't know how many of you receive tips or anything, but I often go and have my head done, I've completely got no cash. Very difficult.
Even tips is cash.
Yeah, so all of that is quite, but if I did see a sort of sustainability tariff or some kind of donation of a pound or whatever at the bottom, I quibble about it at all. I would pay it.
I think
Because I would feel good, because it would make me feel when I walked out that I made some contribution to better the planet, because obviously we all walk around with a little bit of guilt.
They did a chip thing, didn't they? Like calorie-free chips for, and they'd add fiber on the end of your, like, it all came
In
Yeah.
restaurants.
COVID. But you easily go, yeah, I'll have that.
Well, you know what, I went to a restaurant and they had invisible fries on the menu. I ordered them because it said invisible fries, calorie free, and I was like, that's fucking great! I was so excited. And then I was like, I said to Anne Marie, who's my business partner, and I went, where are the invisible fries? And she was like, idiots, donations. But I actually think it's not a bad idea to kind of like add that. I mean, I actually think that's not a bad idea to add, you know.
I was just going to say, I think there's an elephant in the room here, though, which is that every business is struggling post-COVID, that there's been a lot of significant increases in this year, especially now the government and the world seems to have decided that we're now free of COVID and we can just move on as normal. Businesses are licking their wounds and still healing from what has been a very, very difficult couple of years, whilst having to deal with increased national insurance contributions, increased minimum wage costs, which then have an increment change of all of your other staff, increases to business rates, having to repay those COVID loans that you took out to take businesses, to keep your businesses going, and on top of that, your energy bills have gone up exponentially. And I think what was difficult for us in the lead up to what has just been the government's budget is that we worked really hard to get some kind of energy support for businesses in the same way as the government had given to domestic properties just before March, and we weren't successful at the time in being able to get anything there. It's something that we're continuing to plug away at, but I find it sometimes very short-sighted of government that 90% of our industry, not just ours, cross-sector, is SMEs, but yet, so they need to be part of the solution, but when they're having to manage all of those other financial pressures in addition to wanting to do the right thing, even if they want to, if you haven't got the financial ability to do so, then you're really restricted.
I think also the challenge is, if you're a small or medium enterprise and you've got a business that has been hit hard during COVID, it's very difficult to make those sustainable changes if you can't see the outcome, because we don't know yet what we think we know what it's like that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, isn't it? There's a little leprechaun standing there and you're like, well, I think that's where I should be going because I think that's where the gold is, but we haven't quite gotten there yet.
Or it's about cash flow, it's about putting money up front for something that you might not get a return on straight away. So we were talking about solar panels before, weren't we? 10 years before you'll even break even on solar panels. And so you have to have that cash available to do those big steps, and that's where I feel the government, unfortunately, have been quite short-sighted. That there's local authority green.
Something. But I think it's time that we really fought for a green grant, because I think if you're going to, I mean, there's little things you can do to a premises, like you said, you can use colder water, you can, you know, draft excluders and change light bulbs, and even that is helpful. So do that immediately. Change your light bulbs. But you know, but even those, you know, even that costs money. You know, those energy efficient light bulbs are a little bit more expensive.
They do last a long time.
They do last a very long time. I'm not so sure about that blue tinge of the light, but it's fine. You know, you kind of, there's compromises, but it's compromises that you have to make. You know, and I think as an industry, you know, we've galvanised this far. We've done really well. I think we need to be seen as a beacon of sustainability moving forward. Because what we can't be seen as is the problem. You know, we've come so far in raising our reputation and our professionalism that we cannot afford to be the ones that cause the problem.
Anyway, just on that point, could I ask the panel who they think are making the biggest changes in terms of professional brands and then fashion brands that do the skincare and makeup?
Who's making the biggest changes in terms of sustainability?
Oh
God, I think everyone's, a lot of this, well, so a lot of the bigger brands, like the big Unilever's, Procter & Gamble's, a lot of those bigger organisations, the kind of sort of conglomerates are doing a lot of work. It's not as visible because it's very difficult for them to project that to the consumer brand by brand. So, I mean, obviously L'Occitane, Tanqueray, Natura, those are two of the leaders, I think, Natura, Aesop, Avon, Body Shop. So those are real leaders for me. But imagine it, you're such a large corporation that you can make everything from hand sanitizers to deodorants, toothpastes to, I don't know, premium cosmetics. So it's very difficult for them to all of a sudden change that business model overnight because they've got lots of different tentacles. What's really exciting, and this is probably something that we as the British Beauty Council should be promoting more, is the amazing amount of British small brands that are coming up, that are launching. And there are hundreds and hundreds of them. I see them all the time. We have got a list of brands, like, I mean, you know, from the BABTAC to Upcircle. There's so many different interesting brands that are coming up. And I feel very confident that those are driving change. The challenge they've got is they're still quite small. They might sound bigger through media, because social media amplifies everything. They're usually still two people standing around a kitchen table, you know, worried about 5,000 minimum order quantities of one SKU. So what we need to do is try to get some sort of more democratization of the manufacturing process, so they can sort of benefit from the making of the product. Because what happens is, again, going back to your point about the sort of same bottle, if you've got 5,000 bottles and Elemis take 2,000 and Victoria takes 2,000, I take 1,000, you've done your 5,000. The problem is, if you've got 5,000 different bottles, it's very difficult for brands, you know, Oriele brand, Victoria brand, Millie, because we just can't afford it. So I think the smaller brands have been very nimble and they've been very vocal. And I think that they're really kicking those big guys with a big boot.
And I think because they're starting in the last few years, they can go in with a clean slate and try and do it now. Sometimes they're ill-advised and they're told this packaging is made out of, like, you know, is completely combustible, or, you know, and they're pulling that out there and greenwashing the consumer, and that's where they need to make sure that they actually are saying the right thing. But I do agree that, you know, that the smaller brands are pushing the bigger brands to, like, right, we're all in this together, and we've got to find ways of the packaging, and it all starts with the biggest waste. And if you do the report on the British Beauty Council's billions, I mean, we are putting so much into the waste system that is not recyclable. We've also got to put pressure to get more recycled, because only 10% of whatever you've done all that recycling, and only 10% of it is being recycled. But I don't know about you, I was yesterday doing this Sainsbury's shop, and I was like, my husband said he wanted to buy a beaver, and I was like, toying with it, was he wanted to have sugar or not? But the bottle, big sign on there, made of 100% recycled plastic, and I was like, okay, progress. That bottle is completely 100% post-recycled consumer. And although there's that sort of anti-plastics, what we need to do is make sure that whatever we're putting into that recycling bin is actually 100% going through the system and being recycled. And it's complex.
And the food industry is quite far ahead, ahead of us. The fashion industry is completely different, because you can reuse things. You can't reuse a cleanser. I can reuse Grandpa's jacket, but you know, so
there's still issues there around fast fashion and not good quality actual materials, so therefore the materials don't have the longevity, so there's just tons of waste. And I think that's
why I always wear Grandpa's jacket. I just want to, I think we've only got we've only got a minute or so, or 1 minute. So I just wanted to talk about terminology. And so first of all, there's two things actually I wanted to say. The first thing is that there's a report on the British Beauty Council's website called The Courage to Change. It's actually really well done, lots of infographics if you fancy. You can download that for free. There's also a section on our website called the Planet Positive Beauty Guide. What we did was we put together a sort of downloadable PDF and sort of an interactive area, so you can look at what sustainable swaps you can make, and so you can get an idea of terminology, so the symbols on the back of the product, what those actually really mean. And that is updated quite frequently, so you can always use that, especially if your consumers want to know more information, you can drive them towards that.
As a brand, are we okay to share that information on the website? Is there copyright on it, or
no, it's completely, it's open source. Everything we do is open source, you can share it, absolutely. And then the last thing I just wanted to sort of, oh, we've got 16 seconds for God's sake.
Go on.
I just wanted to say that well, part of the Planet Positive Beauty Guide, and I think frustration for us as the Sustainable Beauty Coalition is terminology. So terms like clean beauty, natural beauty, organic beauty, it is incredibly confusing, and what we're trying to do is make it as simple as possible. Because I think I abhor the term clean beauty, because it makes me feel like we were dirty before. I think I've got any time. But there are challenges with terminology, which is part of the whole greenwashing piece, which we are trying to bring your attention to. But exactly what you're saying, we're trying to have that open conversation, because you are part of the solution here. So thank you all for joining us.